Well, this dark cloud that's hanging over our country is darker still if you are a woman. Statistics suggesting now that a woman is killed every 4 hours in South Africa. With gender-based violence increasing, is it business as usual? Well, BTS Senior Strategy Consultant Bonola Smith joins us now to discuss this issue. Thanks very much, Bonola, for coming in.
Thank you very much for having me.
And I reached out to you after seeing your article on LinkedIn, and it really just struck a chord with me as a woman in corporate South Africa in some ways. After the week that we had last week, kicking off with the news that Uyinene Mrwetyana had in fact been raped and killed. But there's a line here in that article where you say it feels like such a lonely experience for women in corporate. Tell me about that.
When I wrote that article, I was actually experiencing a level of confusion. I was hurt. I was in a lot of pain, and I was just also reacting to what had happened in our country, and it wasn't a first. Uyinene is not the first. But I think it was the straw that broke the camel's back for me personally, and I felt alone. I felt that, as women showing up into the workplace, this is something that's very real for us. We risk our lives going to work every single day. I mean, I speak from a point of privilege. I drive to work, and so there's a lot of things that I avoid on my way to work. But I was thinking about all the other women who are potentially feeling the same way as me, who feel lonely, who are triggered as ours. And so I decided to pen that to just punctuate what I was feeling, but also expressing what a lot of women in the country were feeling as well.
And you used the words personally. This was how you felt personally, particularly with regard to the news of Uyinene's death. You didn't know her. I didn't know her. And yet that is a sentiment that so many other women who had never met her
100%.
before had felt.
Exactly. And in the article I say, it's so personal. I didn't know Uyinene, but Uyinene is me. Uyinene was a young black woman. We are women. And, when Uyinene passed away and she was found and we heard that she was raped and murdered, it just became so real, that you could be going anywhere. You could be walking to the mall. You could be, going to the post office.
Yeah, the thing is, she wasn't walking down a dark alley in the middle of the night.
Exactly. And I think that really made it real for a lot of us. And that's why we're so triggered. That's why we feel it so personally, because for the first time, in fact, it's not the first time, but Uyinene really just made us realize that we could be next.
And I suppose it was magnified just because there were those days before the announcement of her death that we were hoping.
We were hopeful. I was hopeful. The day before that, a few of us were having a conversation, and we're saying, no, we'll find her. She'll be found. This is going to be a success story. We're going to, it's going to be a hopeful story. But we realized that, it was quite naive because she's not the first to disappear and be found dead in a ditch or lying somewhere. And so it's really a wake-up call for us as a nation.
So you talk about being triggered. How does that mesh with then going to work and being expected? I mean, the budgets roll over. We need to perform. We need to be there. How do those two issues weigh up against each other?
Exactly. And so one of the things I was raising in the conversation is that we're human. We are human. We come into work, and we absolutely cannot separate our personal from professional. The personal is professional. We show up as people with lives and situations, and I think given what was happening in the country, for me, it was quite perplexing to on the one hand, experience what I was experiencing, on the other hand, have to put together a report and to continue business as usual. And what I then went and did is I had to stop our business and say we need to have a difficult conversation, and we need to look inward in terms of how we can be part of a solution, but also how are we, as an organization, supporting women who, a number of them, have also experienced personal trauma. And it's been quite heartwarming to create that space with our managing director this week and to have a dialogue as women in the organization to look at how are we individually triggered, because people are triggered by different things. And so for some, Amy Lee disappeared in the same week. And other people were experiencing, people's children were thinking, oh my word, I dropped my kids off at school. I'm triggered in some way. And so it was really an opportunity for us as well as a business, and it's an opportunity for other companies as well, to think about what is our immediate response, but also moving forward, what can be done as corporate citizens to address femicide in the country.
Well, perhaps you can give us some suggestions on that because, and I'm sure you've had this as well, just speaking to colleagues, to women who are in the corporate space, there wasn't that response. I think you were quite lucky to have that response in your own company, but that's not the case for many other women.
100%. And I did a brief poll on my social media. I did a poll and I asked people, what does it feel like to come to work and have to just bend your emotions and just step into this corporate world as if nothing has happened? And you know, Michelle, the responses have been quite shocking. I had someone who said to me, you know, I was taken to HR because I had a conversation with my manager this morning about what is happening. And I was told that I'm angry. I'm an angry black person. Why can't I just calm down? And I think the reality is we can't calm down. It is an emergency. It is not going to stop with Uyinene, and so we need to collectively find solutions. And so, you know, when I looked at some of the responses, it was really disheartening, and I think it's an appeal.
Yeah.
It's an appeal and it's an opportunity right now for corporate to think about how are we creating spaces for women to process what is happening, but also to talk about how we're complicit as corporate citizens to perpetuating patriarchy and the environments that make women feel unsafe.
Because the bottom line is, as women, we still need to justify why we feel scared.
Exactly.
Well, thanks very much for coming in and having this
Thank you for having
incredibly
me.
important conversation with us.